in a very selfish way, men will be better, healthier in a world with less gender-based violence, with no gender-based violence.
Absolutely.
And so the ripple effects of gender-based violence, but also stopping gender-based violence,
Mm.
are go on for across communities, across generations. And so I think we don't even we don't even know how wonderful a world without gender-based violence would be because it's existed for so long.
Yeah.
It's part of our colonial reality and the patriarchy, but it doesn't mean we can't build a better world,
Mm.
and we can improve the world for future generations.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's very welcome back at Empowerment Podcast. It's your host, Mr. Gori Katembo, here again. We bring you exclusive content about masculinity, about building healthy relationships, about how men can become alliance towards this crisis that is going on around our city, province, even across the globe, which is gender-based violence. Today, we are honored to have a very special guest joining us for the first but not the last. Tyler Blushank. He is a MLA for Lajmodere, currently serving as a deputy speaker and legislative assistant for education and childhood learning, with a deep of Métis and Ukraine roots here in Manitoba. His family history in the province goes way back as much as 150 years. Before stepping into politics, Tyler played a pivotal role into mentorship and youth empowerment, helping to lead Wayfinders, a high school mentorship program in Seven Oaks School Division. His background in public service and education reflects his passion for supporting young people and shaping policies that build stronger communities. Tyler holds a master's degree in public administration and brings a unique perspective to leadership as openly as LGBT plus representative in the government. And when he's not working, you can find him running, watching reality TV, and spending time with his husband and a tiny dog, Richie. Today, we'll be diving in deep on the importance on an important talk about GBV, which is gender-based violence, and men allyship towards the topic of gender-based violence. Tyler, we are thrilled to have you this morning at Empower Men podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really, really excited. Go day.
Yes, I believe the first time we met, you came to our center when you were making announcement about the new funding that will be supporting through the wage program, and I think that was the first time meeting you. And then we discussed a little bit, and you showed a very deep interest about this topic, not just as an MLA, but also as an individual. Why do you think it's important that we have this topic of gender-based violence?
Yeah, I think it's really well. It was such a treat to come to Elmwood Resource Center because I hadn't been there before. So
Okay.
one of the great parts of this role is being able to learn about all the amazing work being done in the province. So it was a real treat to come see the center and learn about the work. But like I think gender-based violence is a conversation that we all need to be a part of.
Absolutely.
Often it's framed as a women's issue,
Mhm.
but really men play a pivotal role in the realities of gender-based violence. So I think it's incumbent upon us to not shy away from learning about what's going on and seeing what kind of role we can play in addressing it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. And I'm so glad that we have MLAs like yourselves in a position of power where they can advocate, because this issue, when we look at gender-based violence, it's it's affect everything about our economy, about our health, about our mental health, about our development. Because an individual who's experiencing gender-based violence, most likely they will miss work, which will kill productivity of economic. Mental health will be an issue. sickness. There's so many, they can even go into school, they cannot concentrate because of this. So when we're seeing all of this and when we're talking about gender-based violence, many people, they don't really understand the impact and the effect that it has on the individuals, on the community, but also as this on a national wide, right? Now we come to understand that gender-based violence, it's a topic. For so long, I have been attending a couple of few gender-based violence topic and summon workshops. And often I would walk in a room, it is a bunch of women. And like you mentioned earlier on, saying that we have made it to seem like it's a women's issue. It's a men issue.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think like women have been carrying the burden of the work for so long.
Mhm.
And it's really, and like amazing work has happened over the decades. And like you see women's resource centers, and you see health centers, and you see family centers, and it's because of the work of so many women who recognize the needs that exist in community, and like and relate to gender-based violence and addressing it. But yeah, we're definitely playing catch up as men in being present, engaging, and playing our role in addressing it. And I think there's so many opportunities for us to be a part of it. Like it really across different communities. It manifests in different ways,
Mhm.
and there's also different opportunities to be a part of that conversation and be a leader. So um, yeah, we're just really excited. Like I'm fortunate to work with a lot of colleagues who are willing and able and wanting to engage in this conversation. And like you said, like it's it's a family, like it manifests in the home often, but it ripples out across
It
communities,
is, yeah.
across cities, across provinces, across nations.
Yeah.
And so whenever I'm talking about what I'm trying to accomplish in my work, I
Mhm.
often come back to the frame around healthy communities. As like how
Absolutely.
do we move towards healthier communities and ensuring folks have a safe place to lay their heads at the end of the day,
Mhm.
a safe place to sleep, a safe home like that.
Mhm.
That's pivotal when I'm conceptualizing what a healthy community looks like, and that safe home is free of gender-based violence.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And I always like to have this idea as a, in order for us to build a stronger nation or a stronger province or a stronger community, we have to start by building a stronger home. And again, ties back to that, having that healthier home, healthier relationship where people can strive, where people can feel accepted, where people can know that they belong, right? Because that's the first level. Because if that is not happening, then there's a lot of other issues that are going to happen in a community. Now, as we're talking about this, there has been some misconception that men may have about this gender-based violence that we need to address. What would you say some of those misconceptions may be? I understand there's that where they feel like it's a women's issue.
Yeah, like I think there's a real narrow understanding of what gender-based violence is and what it looks like.
Mhm.
Often we think of it as like physical violence, which it's definitely that's part of it.
Yeah,
Sexual violence is a part of it. But there's also like emotional violence.
absolutely.
There's control, and power is so
Hmm.
central to those dynamics. And also like financial
Sure.
manipulation and financial
Absolutely.
control. So
Absolutely.
power and control is overlays all of that. And when we start looking at the ways those manifest in relationships and in between individuals, but also like kind of in broader communities, like you look to see how violence is perpetrated and you have a greater understanding. And so I think the more we have language to identify and see and recognize gender-based violence, the more men are equipped to actually engage in it.
Absolutely. Now, you did mention some, and these are some of the things misconception that is there that often people, when we're talking about gender-based violence, the first thing they only think about is the physical violence. Like you have highlighted, there's the sexual, there's the emotional, there's even the spiritual, there's digital, where people, they are controlling and monitoring your social media, everything about this. And again, that ties into power and control, right? There's digital, there is financial. And when men come to our programs, we talk about this. And each time I say gender-based violence, the first thing is physical and maybe sexual. And some of them, they may say, oh, no, it's my girlfriend. Then I start bringing up the topic of consent and boundaries and things like this. Because some of them, they don't understand some of these things. And these are some of the stigma and some of the things, mindset that we're trying to really help men to shift away. Just because you paid for dinner and you took your girlfriend doesn't mean now you feel entitled to her body after, or you feel like this person owe you something just because of that. So these are conversations that we are having, and it's very important that people understand that it's beyond just the physical or the sexual, right? But how can we move away now? You in your previous years, because I also have this belief that sometimes very difficult to try to redirect people who are grown up, but you have worked with youth in mentorship programs and things. Why do you think it's very important that we also, as we're talking about, because our project is not only on men, but also young boys, why is it important that we should start engaging young boys in this conversation as early as possible?
Right. Well, I think, I so enjoyed and appreciated my work with young people. It's really what led me to pursuing the role I'm in now. But the work with young people, you learn so much.
Absolutely.
And I was seeing young people navigate their first relationships, sometimes like romantic relationships, but also friendships or like relationships with family,
Yeah.
and trying to determine what was right, what was wrong, what was consent, what could be expected of a partner, and kind of negotiation. And we aren't born with these tools. These are things we learn like through our community, through our families, and it's something we slowly acquire. So I think the earlier we can help young people develop and broaden those tools, and to develop those like positive patterns of healthy relationships, like it's so much easier to learn than unlearn.
That's true.
So so the more equipped young people are to navigate relationships, because relationships are complicated regardless of age.
Yeah.
And young people, you mentioned like digital control. Young people are navigating a digital world that I only had to start navigating in my 20s. And so they are, I guess, what's called digital natives. They don't know a world without the internet and social media. And so it can both equip them, but it can also create a real difficult set of experiences to navigate. There are folks online who monetize a lot of things that are antisocial and destructive, and counter to the work that you're doing. And so helping young people navigate their in-person relationships, but also their relationships with technology and the internet is also really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when we're seeing again with the young people, like you mentioned, it is easy to learn and unlearn, right? Because then you have to learn. So
Yeah.
there's two more steps, right?
Yeah.
It's like if you have to unlearn, then you have to learn new things. So there's always that extra steps. And I think that's what makes our work very important. Right now, we're currently operating in 2 high schools, right? And our goal is to go to many as high schools as possible. Because again, we understand that if we can engage these young boys into this conversation as early as possible, just not young boys, but also girls, to understand some of the signals of like what we consider toxic relationship, or what we consider what should a healthy relationship look like, because sometimes they don't know any better because nobody ever told them. Maybe they came from the abusive home, so they think that's a new norm, or maybe that's how relationship should be. So they end up accepting or taking in so much because they saw maybe their parents going through that. They think that's how relationship should be, right? So I think with young people, yes, definitely looking at the digital world and what is happening on social media, there's so much.
Right. And it comes down to like literacy is a really important part of it. Like making sense of the world is ultimately, I think, what we're trying to help young people be equipped to do.
Yeah.
And the world, again, there's many different parts to the world. So how do we help them make sense of how they can navigate it in a good way? I'm sitting here wearing a pink shirt, which is don't usually wear a t-shirt to work, but
Yeah.
today is Pink Shirt Day, and I want to thank Ecole Van Bellingham for this
Okay.
shirt they designed.
I should have worn my pink shirt today. I have a dress shirt that is pink.
Yeah.
It's just I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
Like,
No, it's all good.
we're learning every day.
There's a lot of days to remember, but but it started about 20 years ago when a young boy on the East Coast wore a pink shirt, and he got bullied for it. For wearing a shirt of a particular color that was seen as less than masculine. And so it's become a bit of a movement for Pink Shirt Day to recognize the controlling nature of some relationships and the bullying nature, and like how we try and use our power for good, but also bad sometimes. And so today's all about acknowledging homophobic bullying and how we try and control people's gender expression.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very powerful. Prior to coming to Canada, where I come from, it was not until I came to Canada that I realized that pink was mainly for women or for maybe gender diverse folks. So I didn't know.
Yeah.
So until when we came to Canada, like, oh, you can't wear pink. I was like, who said so?
Yeah.
Like, I had some pink shirts in Africa. Like, nobody ever said that, oh, it belongs. No, if you like it, you can wear. Like, there was no that idea that, oh, blue is for boys and pink is no. Like, until I got here. So these are some of the mainstream challenges. And we see many other challenges where they keep pushing the message to say, oh, no, you can't do this. And speaking of that, actually, we have what we call the man box theorem. It's like often the society has put people, now in this context, is men in this box. That's okay. And I usually do this exercise with every group, especially the young people. And I went, I think, to one high school, and we were talking about what does it mean to be a man? Okay, define a man. Who's a man, right? What do you say is a man? They say, okay, he has to be 6 foot tall, has to have muscles like LeBron James, has to be like this, has to be like this, has to be like this. So they made up all this list. And I asked the question to the young girls too as well. They said almost similar things, right? And then I said, okay, so what happens if somebody does not fit those descriptions? Does that make them less of a man? Like, for example, it's simple as, oh, men maybe should not wear pink. So what happens if I wear pink? Does that make me less of a man?
Right. Exactly. There's all these rules and expectations that are sometimes spoken, but also unspoken. And then when you go beyond the rule, you get punished.
You get punished.
And you're taught to like come in line. So I think, that's such a good exercise to do with people of all ages.
Yeah, I think I'll do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, I had a thought and I lost it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Maybe it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
Oh, I just wanted to say, like, even as I'm reflecting on what I said, I apologized for wearing a t-shirt when I was, for not being more dressed up, as if I need to be wearing a suit to do my job.
To do your job.
I need to wear that costume to be taken seriously. But I'm just reflecting on trying to unlearn some stuff as we have this conversation.
Exactly. Yeah, because this is very powerful. I actually have one on my dress shirt, and I do it intentionally. It's actually pink,
Yeah. Mhm.
intentionally, and I would dress it boldly and like I'm just because now I'm getting to that stage, understanding some of the things that I can wear it,
Mhm.
and if somebody, then it's a good opportunity to start having that dialogue
Mhm.
with them. So
Right.
it's like I'm a rebel a little bit. It's like I will wear it even the day that is not like today, remembering. I'll just wear it just randomly. Let me
Right.
see what people will say.
Well, I think everything can be an invitation.
Yeah.
Like so many things can be an invitation. Like even when I think about my intro, sometimes I get self-conscious that I include that I like reality TV.
Yeah.
And then, but sometimes after an event, someone will come up to me and be like, "What reality TV do you watch?
Yeah, I
Do
was
we
about
watch
to
the
ask
same
you
shows?
that,
Do we
yeah.
watch-" Yeah. So it's like, so
Yeah.
everything can be an invitation, and like it's just that tiny little bit of bridge building and that
Mhm.
opportunity for a relationship. And like maybe it's just a quick conversation about which Real Housewives franchises we watch,
Yeah.
or maybe it builds to something more substantial. And like either of those are good. Like yeah.
And
Yeah.
absolutely, and I think that's the thing that we live in a society where it's like everyone just want to show the perfect life, especially on social media, the young people. And I said, okay, you just gotta be you. Like you don't, and it's okay, be you. You don't have to put one mask and wear. And there's another exercise that I do with the young people is the mask that we all live in.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Right.
Is that we wake up in the morning, we get up, we're like, how do you want to be portrayed today? Good day. Okay, is it the funny guy? Is it the cool guy? Is it this? Is it? And every morning. But sometimes it is a block or it's a barrier to really connect with people who can help you to get the help that you need because you're waking up. You have a mask on. And I see this. I personally went through this in high school when I was going through difficult. I was the most happiest kid at high school. From populous, athletic, this, but in the down. And some of the people, classmates, I want to be like you. I'm like, trust me, you don't want to be like me because I was still fighting the demons and the thoughts and the things. If they could only understand the real me, what was going on, they won't.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
I don't want to speak for your experience, but I feel like I had a similar experience where I was just trying to be safe and protect myself in high school.
Yeah.
And so it was navigating to ensure like you had social capital and you weren't making yourself vulnerable and things like that. And that's a way to like protect yourself.
Absolutely, yeah.
And which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's maybe steps that folks shouldn't have to think about. Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about, building those healthy relationships. If I open to you that say, I'm Liz, how would you react? Do you accept me or do you push me? Would you bully me? Would you look at me different? Would you treat me different? And this is the importance why we are having this conversation on healthy relationships and men to becoming alliance with on this topic of gender-based violence and supporting women and gender diverse folks and seeing where we can meet people where they are to build healthy relationships and healthy communities, healthy homes, and healthy nations too as well. Now, as we're looking at this idea of allyship, because sometimes as men we feel, no, it's not our problem. When you are thinking, what are some of the positive examples that, or positive actions that men we can do to become alliance into building what we call healthy relationships or healthy community, whether in policies, whether in school, whether in our day-to-day life?
I think as individuals, like as individual people, I think taking a step back and like and being humble in our learning, being open to not knowing everything, and hearing about people's other experiences and seeing those as valid is really important in our making sense of what our role can be. Because we can't, as individuals, we can't do everything, but there is a role for us to play, and
Absolutely.
figuring out what that role is means kind of making sense of um, your place within your community, and what are your gifts. I think
Mm.
it's really um, one of the things that a tool I often used with young people was the circle of courage, and one of the areas within the circle of courage is generosity.
Oh,
It's like,
yeah.
what do you have to give back?
Yeah.
And so I think it's important for folks to take a step back and think about what you can contribute. I always ask, like, what's your superhuman power? Like, everyone
Yeah.
has something that
So,
they're really good at.
yeah.
So how can you contribute? But I also think, like, folks in leadership positions, and like if you're talking about like policy or like structural changes, it's important that we think about who's at the table,
Oh,
um, who's um, who's making the decisions, what experiences are informing the decisions. If it's just you and me at the table, I don't think we're coming up with the best gender-based violence policy solutions.
mm.
We need different voices. We need people with lived experience, and I think it's incumbent upon us, if we're at the table and there are voices that are missing, to ensure that they're well represented and not just tokenized. A table, a table with 9 men and 1 woman, like, is that representative?
No.
Do we have a trans person at the table? Do we
Mhm.
have someone with two spirit
It's
experience?
at the table.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah.
Yeah, and especially when we're living in a country like Canada that is very mosaic,
Hmm.
people from different walks of life, different beliefs, and different genders, and all of those things. When we're looking about again, reflecting on who's on the table, it's always a question that I always say when we're building policies or when we're coming up with programs, when who is on the table? Because who's on the table has a huge impact. And sometimes because they don't know any better, they will develop maybe program or policies or rules that they think it's best, but it's harming other folks or it's excluding other folks. So understanding of who is on the table, I think it's a very, very fast stepping stone because we live in a very mosaic. Now, 150 years ago, or maybe even 100 years ago, 50 years ago, a lot of this was not there. There was not so much of maybe Piper community. There was not so much of maybe gender folks. Or I mean, they were there, but they were not given that right where they can come openly and say, "Oh, I think our voice matters." So now we're seeing changes, in them in the population and things, and new immigrants, and we're seeing a lot of folks from the Middle East, which are Muslim, also coming into this. So it's creating very um, interesting society, and in order for us really to build those policies that include everyone, I think it's a key that we reflect as
Hmm.
community leaders, as policymakers, as schools, as just individual, understanding that we have so much to learn now. Now, probably you growing up, a lot of people who are probably almost from a similar background and maybe same socio-economic status, probably went to the same high school or neighborhood. So you had a lot of similarity at some extent. But now, um, you go to I went to some of my university classes. You don't know who's now who do you define as Canadian? Is it somebody who has just a European background and maybe Métis background? But now you have people from Middle East, from Africa, from Asia, and it's a very beautiful thing to see,
Right.
right? But as we're building this, again, uh, alliance, why is it important for men? Not just to support again this women voice, but to actively, not to just women's voice, let me correct myself, but also gender diverse folks, voices, but not just supporting the voice, but to actively participate in a movement of healthy relationships, gender equality, or just gender-based violence?
I think I'm going to go back to something you said in the preamble, and I think one of one of the things that I've grown to appreciate so much in this role is I have an opportunity to visit folks and be welcomed into a lot of different spaces. And I've had the opportunity to visit different places of worship, different temples, different churches, different mosques, different lodges, and I get to learn from everyone that I interact with, and learn from these different value systems. But I also get to see the common threads that exist across these different value systems. Like you see um, teachings around respect and love and generosity and things like that. And so I think we can easily um, see difference, but we can also see like commonality in some experiences.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a muscle we can develop if we want to. And it like if and it
Yeah.
takes a mind shift a little bit to not just see difference but also see commonality. I'll tell one story. It's a story I love to tell because it was the last house that I door knocked during the campaign. And it was the night before election day, and it was a little dark out. I probably should have stopped, but I went to this last house,
Yeah.
and it was this pretty young couple. They were newer to Canada, racialized couple, and they had said that they were excited to vote for me. And in a world where they could have seen me as a white gay man who has not a lot in common with them, they felt that if I in this role could work to address some of the barriers that maybe I and they as newcomers to Canada were facing, like that is a good thing.
Yeah.
That they could see some shared experience in having to navigate barriers that others don't have to. So it was just a real moment for me to appreciate that they could have seen difference, but they saw an opportunity to build a bridge. And so I always tell that story because I think it was just a real choice on their part, and I really appreciate that, and it sticks with me. And so I think why men should engage in addressing gender-based violence, I think it comes back to we're all in relationship, and in a very selfish way, men will be better, healthier in a world with less gender-based violence, with no gender-based violence.
Absolutely.
And so the ripple effects of gender-based violence, but also stopping gender-based violence, go on for across communities, across generations. And so I think we don't even know how wonderful a world without gender-based violence would be because it's existed for so long. It's part of our colonial reality and the patriarchy, but it doesn't mean we can't build a better world, and we can improve the world for future generations.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's very powerful and profound. You sharing that story where they saw as a difference, but also they saw as an opportunity to build a bridge, right? And in a world that we live, like I mentioned, there's so many things that can divide us, but also there's so much opportunity that can bring us all together, especially as people living in Canada in this beautiful province. There's so many differences, right? There's so many differences, but understanding, like, that's a very remarkable story. It's something that I would reflect on that each time I go into the space where you see difference, where maybe you're like, okay, maybe I don't support, maybe, but you understand maybe there's also an opportunity. There's, I think, a Chinese proverb. They say it's like where there's a crisis or where there's an obstacle, there's also an opportunity. So it's up to us to choose, are you going to stick to that obstacles or to that differences or to that bridge or whatever that divides you, or you are going to shift? Can I open my, just have a conversation? Because I think it's not as simple as a conversation. There's a lot of misconception that people have about people, about different culture, about folks, about just, have you got even an opportunity to have 10 minutes conversation, to know about them, to hear their story?
Right, absolutely. And it comes back to relationship, absolutely, and we how we move through the world with a lot of assumptions, and how we can really practice to like minimize those assumptions. And we minimize those assumptions by building relationships,
Mm.
and we ask questions in a genuine way and be open to new information that informs our worldview.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. As we're talking about this idea of breaking those barriers, and I, for me, again, come from a tradition where we we are very oral people. So a lot of
Mhm.
our stories, a lot of our learnings, you get by actually connecting with people, hearing stories. Our grandmothers will sit down with us and tell us about stories. Yes, we do have some books, but we come from a tradition where it is stories. Now here in Canada, I understand the culture's difference. A lot of big libraries, and you want to really read anything. But in where I come from, you want to learn about something, about someone, about a particular topic. You go meet people. You sit down with them and hear what they have to say. Because you will learn so much. There's this saying in my language that says, when you see an individual, they are like a book, they are like a library. If you can take a moment to sit down with them, if they give you permission to sit down for coffee, and I think in Canada, everybody's very generous. If you say, okay, I would love to buy you coffee, can I sit down? I want to learn more about. I think people are very generous to be open. So again, but we have a responsibility is to show up ready to listen, right? To listen. And there's this famous thing that is going on with the young people. I like to do different challenges based on what's going on in there. It's a what we don't judge, we listen, we don't judge, right? So I will start
Right.
off by that. It's a we listen, we don't judge, and then you see them start opening and start here, and I'm like, this is a very beautiful thing.
Right. Well, and I think that's also an opportunity to sit back and reflect on, why am I having a particular reaction to a story, or to something that's being shared, and like kind of um, really reflect on what's informing my reaction, and am I okay with it?
Mm.
Am I comfortable with my reaction? Does it make sense? Does it align with my values? And if it doesn't, what kind of growth do I need to take on for myself?
Yeah.
Hmm.
As we're challenging the norms and building healthy relationships again, it comes to how can how can we challenge the traditional idea of this masculinity that sometimes discourage men from speaking up? And I'm not saying speaking up because sometimes some men, of course, with gender diverse folks or people who identify them maybe as themselves as gay, sometimes it is easy to feel to get pushed back, right? But how can we um, encourage men to speak up for themselves? Maybe those who identify themselves being part of the minority group, but also being vulnerable.
Hmm.
Because sometimes I feel it becomes a bridge when men are strong, tough, like it becomes a bridge to, I mean, it becomes a barrier when they're not even willing to let me take a step back. I don't need to be strong all the time because that's, for me, if you tell me you have to be strong all the time and in control, that shows insecurity. It shows fear and it shows a lot of things that is going underneath. But how can we encourage men to speak up for those who have been abused, for those who are marginalized, especially in a space of like gender-based violence, in those for those men who are openingly maybe being from a different gender, and how can we build being vulnerable alliance to those situations?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
I think there's a few things I want to touch on. Probably, I think in supporting folks who are experiencing gender-based violence and disclosing that, I think it's really important that we like come in with a non-judgmental attitude, and we as someone who's a trusted person in that person's life, we don't have to understand everything that they're sharing to affirm their experience.
Yeah.
And so I think it's important that we center the folks who are experiencing it and ensuring that they have what they need, and putting their needs kind of center of that conversation and supporting them in any way we can. I think it's pivoting from strength to courage, I think would be a useful framing for a lot of folks. I know I'm a big fan of like the emotions wheel, like a
Yeah.
kind of broadening the emotions that we can identify and see in ourselves. Feel like as young men, we're allowed to be happy, sad, or angry,
Mhm.
basically. But there's so many more emotions, and so we're way more complicated than those three. And
Mhm.
so being able to recognize those feelings in ourselves is really important, and pivoting from strength, but there's a place for strength, and it's important that we recognize our strengths,
Yeah.
but also recognize the value in courage and vulnerability when we're being courageous, because those vulnerability and courage can kind of coexist in the same moment.
Mhm.
And recognizing that tension and being okay with it is important. So I think emotional literacy is a really big part of the work to equip young people in developing those healthy relationships,
Mhm.
and also helping folks of different generations
Mhm.
recognize maybe opportunities for growth. When you talk about someone sharing their stories and their history and their understanding, like I think a little bit about legacy and like what we're leaving behind, and hopefully we're I think what they're when people are sharing their understanding of the world, they're wanting to impart something good that people can carry forward. And so I think taking on this work around gender-based violence is a part of um, the legacy of all of the work that's gone on over the decades to
Yeah.
address gender-based violence, but also bringing in more men into the conversation and playing an active role in stopping it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you have already answered the my next
Oh,
question, which was kind of, which is great. Talking about again supporting the survivors, but also taking actions. Right? You have already touched some of these tangible steps that men we can take to be a part of the solution. Right? Which is talking about again showing up and also my ability to just being open
mhm,
and ready to learn and meeting people where they're at, right?
mhm,
I think that's my usually my approach is like meeting people where they are. And I always encourage men and say there's one skill now you need to develop. This is something that I started in some of the sessions that I lead. It's the importance of emotional intelligence. Okay, your own emotions, but also the emotions of those who are around you when they're sharing their stories, when they're sharing things, how do you react? How do you process it? How do you take it in? Right?
mhm.
Because it's like people inviting you in their own home. And I always say it's always a privilege that when people just say, I'm gonna share my story, because then they're inviting you in their world. So let's not take it for granted. Let's cherish those moments and let's be present. But again, it's time but we start exercising those which I call emotionally intelligent EQ. How can we develop that? How can we be vulnerable in meeting people? We don't always have to be super strong, but can you just listen? Right?
Right.
As we're coming to the closing and reflecting on some of the things that we have talked about, a lot of great stories. Now, for the men listening to this conversation, especially the young men, what is one thing that you will encourage them to do today by starting to becoming alliance on this topic, and also helping us to start building healthy relationships in our homes, in our communities, in our provinces as well.
Right. I would say, I think being curious and open to learning is an important first step. I'm a big believer that we're always on a learning journey. We have never learned everything. We don't know everything, and so we will have moments where there's missteps, and it's an opportunity for growth, and that's not a bad thing. But it's important that we're open to that, and so coming into an opportunity for learning with some humility and asking genuine questions is a really important first step people can take to make sense of what role they can play, whether it's improving relationship dynamics within their friend group, or if it's a romantic partnership that they're in, having conversations about boundaries and expectations, and also being open to empathy and understanding that people are complex, and there's opportunity for growth. And so say a young man is in an unhealthy relationship, and does some becomes a perpetrator in some way. There are opportunities for him to change how he navigates the world, and that moment doesn't have to define him for the rest of his life. And there's opportunities for the people around him to support him in his growth as well. So yeah.
Oh, wow. This is very profound to our listeners. Again, this is Tyler. He's an MLA for Lajmodere. He's not just a politician. He's a community advocate, as you could hear some of the wisdom that he has shared with all of us. And we are so grateful and honored that we have individuals like yourself on an MLA space where they can advocate. Well, eventually one day, maybe advocate for some of these policies and maybe become laws and rules, because we need people. And we are super grateful and honored on behalf of Elmwood Community Resource Center, but also Empowerment Podcast. We say thank you for taking time to join us this morning, and we're super grateful. Hopefully this will not just be a conversation. In coming years, maybe we'll do actionable and tangible things to make sure that we support the survivors and also men. Come to the table as we discuss this issue that is affecting our province, our city, and our homes. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all your work. You're making real change in the world.
Yeah, we're grateful. Thank you so much.
You.
Thank you. It's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
That was great.
That was great.